I don't really have a intro for this. Just like I don't really have a grasp on theme. So if you're willing to join me, I'm just gonna throw out a handful of ideas about what the theme of this video might be, and let me know. What do you think? Starting off though, Georgia Bird gets called out for not singing real loud and good in church when she has a ton of other stuff going on, and that's just like a real rough moment that I think we can all relate to, getting called out in the middle of doing something while you have a bunch of other stuff going on. So immediately I felt seen by this movie. So after you get that intro, there's going to be a handful of other things that I'm just going to kind of bullet point that might be important to the theming of the movie as we discuss it. So I'm going to try to get into that. And the first thing that I think is important is at church, the senator who promised they would show up to help with some community revitalization project is not there. Which, shock of shocks, a politician not showing up for the average people, for the people that elected them. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Another thing that's important is our main character Georgia has a binder full of possibilities, and the neighbor kid snoops through it so that we as the audience can see, oh, what is she hoping? What is she dreaming? It gives a nice little idea, oh, what's going to go on in this movie? Something else that's pretty awesome is all of Georgia's friends are trying to set her up with Sean, so kudos to them. A really confusing part of the story, I almost got lost, is they're in a big building with lots of different areas to buy things, and I just don't understand that. I grew up in the Amazon era, so if I ever wanted anything, I would go online and ask for it to show up at my house. This whole selling grills in the same place that you sell I don't know, rugs, that doesn't make sense to me really. I just if I want something, I go to the internet and I get it from there. One other really good early point in the movie is Sean kind of real excitedly asks to Georgia, ask me what? And it sounds a little aggressive, but I'm reading it as just he was so excited that Georgia was coming to talk to him. And Georgia takes the easy way out of saying, oh, I'm just here to talk to you about buying another grill, which leads to some comedy of she doesn't have enough space on her porch for that. So that's a little rough, but I don't know if that directly plays into the theme, but maybe it does, what with the whole indecisiveness of our main character. Then we get to a point where we're seeing a villain show up. Middle management. Middle management is so excited about whatever the CEO is doing and doesn't care about the customers. Not that any of us could relate to that feeling, which is good. And we see middle management continue with their villainy as right after Georgia gets hurt, she and Sean were talking and then she gets injured. She bumped her head and so she's got to go, and she's going to what looks like a hospital inside of this one store, which is crazy. And the middle management does what villain versions of middle management always do, and they say, oh, we can't spend money on anything, but the doctor says, no, I assure you it's necessary. Georgia has to get a CAT scan. So she goes and gets a scan, and the doctor's like, oh, this is bad news. So this is kind of the tipping point that changes Georgia's life, because up until now she's just done a good job working and living her life, trying to do good and whatnot. So middle manager's like, oh, we shouldn't pay for that, but still ends up having it ordered and is upset about that. Going forward, can we talk about that for a moment? The hospital was clearly inside the same building. They walked to a different floor in that building, and for some reason the middle manager is scared about paying money. Isn't that weird? If your company owns the hospital, why can't they already be paying for keeping the people alive? If you own the machine that it takes to run to image someone's brain, why do you need to be oh, it's going to cost so much money? It's an energy cost at that point, isn't it? Why does it need to be expensed? Maybe I'm just ignorant, but that's just weird. You don't even have to deal with insurance companies. And insurance companies, if they're not in the picture, then you don't have to have pretend inflated prices so that then they can get their discounts. So it's a very confusing scene. I'm a little confused on that part, but the overall movie, I'm already into it at this point. I'm like intrigued. What happens? Does she live? Is she gonna die? Because like now we see the whole like, oh, she's got something wrong with her brain, and the something wrong with her brain indicates that she's got 3 weeks to live, and she saved up her whole life just doing wage paying jobs, and she's like trying to get this paid, and we're running into our next big villain, and that's insurance. So she goes and she's trying to ask insurance, hey, can you pay for this surgery so that then I can live? And insurance says, maybe, let's run some numbers. It'll be $1 billion or whatever. And so Georgia says, I can't afford that. I thought that's why I paid insurance, so then I could afford things that were life-threatening that I couldn't afford. But insurance is like, well, if you feel that's unfair, and hands her like a binder that's like, I don't know, the size of Rhode Island, and is like, here you go, just deal with it that way. So of course, Georgia's not able to foot the bill. She's like, I guess I won't do that. I'm gonna go do something else. And can we pause for a moment and just talk about like, maybe what I like so much about this movie is like, I feel like all of the villains are so relatable. You got insurance companies, you got like bad middle management, and like the big bad of the movie, we'll get to him later, Mr. Cragen, plays a character in a TV show that I really like. That was all about like, hey, we're gonna provide, help to the people that don't have help, that are in bad situations. So it's just like a weird to see, like the first time I saw the big bad character in this movie, I was like, wait, but that's supposed to be a good guy, because I was young and I was like watching the movie thinking like, wait, but he's, I think he's from a different show. So that was weird. I think that the whole like show just really speaks to like, the general villainy of America. Wait. Okay, where were we? We're doing a cut. So George has decided not to go forward and try to like go into huge, insane medical debt, because she like can't even get to a point where she could afford that. And the 3 weeks to live, it's like, oh, that's pretty sure that's going to happen. Like the odds of whatever is not going to be great. Anyway, it leads into this part of the movie that's maybe my favorite part in the whole movie. She walks into the evil middle manager's office, and the evil middle manager is like, oh, have you heard what the CEO of the company says? He's got all these rules about how to live life, and it's so awesome and amazing. And the middle manager is like, blah, 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 blah. And George is like trying to talk to him. And middle manager is like, oh, no, I'm going to take a phone call. And he's like, hold on a second. And she's like, can you please put the phone down? And he's like, no, I'm talking on the phone. It's important. And she takes the phone and does what we all want to do with phones and destroys it, which... huge props. Even better, because then she's like, I don't have to talk to you. You don't care about me. You've never really cared about like the people you're around. So I'm not going to waste my breath trying to explain to you what's going on. So instead, I'm just telling you, I'm done. I quit. And middle manager's like, wait, no, I can't lose you because you make us the most money. You're the best at your job. Which is another evil middle manager trait of like, oh, the people that are the best at the jobs, we just like keep on and pay minimal. So like, he got what he was going for. And then he like tries to call after her on the PA system saying, hey, I'll give you like raises of like 25 cents an hour, 50 cents an hour, $1 an hour. And it's like, just like a not good thing. So that all happens, and that great scene, George is convinced, she knows what she's going to do. She walks out of the building, and then Sean has built up the courage again to ask her out. He says, hey, I've got tickets to some place in 3 weeks. Would you like to go with me to this? And Georgia doesn't really communicate what's going on in her life. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I probably can't make it to that. And so Sean says, oh, well, here's the tickets anyway, if you want to go. I'd love to still go with you. And so maybe I'm thinking like the theme here at this point, we've seen like the doctor and the middle management communicating and the middle management not communicating to Georgia. And then right now, Georgia not communicating to Sean what's going on. So maybe the theme is something about communication. Bad communication makes for a bad time. And then potentially reinforcing that is the idea of like, this hotel. Like Georgia, whatever, she's cashed out all of her money. She's going to go somewhere. She's going to like, hey, if I've got 3 weeks to live, I'm going to go live in like a fun, fancy place. So she takes all of her life savings and she flies out to this hotel. It's called Hotel Boop, which maybe that reinforces the theme of bad communication, right? Because it's kind of funny. It's like it's like called Hotel Boop. but it's in English it's like a funny word, you know. On her way to the hotel, she's like flying across the sea, so she's like, oh, I paid for this ticket, whatever. And somebody in front of her is trying to lean back, and she's like, no, I paid for this whole seat. Why can't I have this seat? I don't want somebody leaning over me the whole flight over. And so a side villain of the airlines like trying to push too many people into a space, and it's like, oh, cool, yeah. She's like fighting against the power, except then she like pays them more money to get a big like first class private cocoon, and so it's like, oh, well, I guess you got to play the games that the people in power have set up for you or something. So I don't know if that contributes to the theme, but it's something to be thinking about because maybe it will. We get inside the hotel, and Georgia has flown there, and it's great. And she's looking around the hotel, and she's just like, wow, these ceilings are so beautiful. And we're just reminded, like, oh yeah, maybe the point of the movie is to enjoy life and to appreciate how beautiful it is. And of course, in contrast to the idea of enjoying how beautiful the hotel is, all the workers there are like just busy about their job. And even more contrast is the big bad villain, Mr. Kragen, who shows up and is like, whoa, what's going on? What's happening here? I gotta make money. Where's my money? Oh, and plus, Mr. Kragen has this thing where he's married, and he has brought along a side chick on this excursion who's like somebody that works for him. So it's like doubly gross, where it's like, oh, all sorts of stuff. So he's probably definitely the villain if the theme is like, oh, you should enjoy the things in life that you have and not always be like going for more, because he's going for more money, going to buy more senators and Congress people, and he, you know, has a wife and is trying to get more women. So maybe he really is the ultimate villain of the movie. I'm just kidding. We know that he is. He's clearly the bad guy. He gives you the look the whole time, like the, I'm upset at you because you're here. So that's obviously bad guy behavior. At this point in the movie, we've got a few characters. We've got Georgia. She's the main character, obviously. We have the sidekicks, Sean, obviously, her coworker buddies, and the neighbor kid who she made food for. Now we've got the villains, mostly Mr. Kragen, insurance, middle management, and currently the senator and the congressman are also villains, but we'll see how that gets on. We're about to meet maybe my favorite side character, who's on George's team, so you know that they're a good person. She sits down at a table for one, and she orders everything she wants on the menu. Just everything, no substitutions. And the chef is like, wait, what? This is amazing. And so he comes out, and Mr. Kragen, you know, the guy with the money who's just throwing around to try to get things done, is trying to talk to, like, summon the chef to be like, hey, chef, we want to talk to you because one of the congressman's wives is really interested in, like, meeting you or something. And so he's like, well, I've got to wine and dine these people so that then when I get my bills passed, it's not that big of a deal, or, you know, they'll be happy towards me or something. I don't know how the whole politicking things works. But Chef Didier stops at George's table first, and it's awesome because it's like, hey, I care about the people who care about life and enjoyment, and not just the people who are here to, you know, win at money or something. That doesn't make any sense. I just don't understand how people think you can win at money other than like having enough to live, but whatever. This whole thing continues. George is just enjoying life at this super rich and fancy hotel. And there's a really great moment at the spa where this lady is whacking her with leaves as like a treatment. And George is like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. And the lady's like, no, I do it with love. And it's amazing. It's great. I think that everyone should watch that so that then we can all quote that to each other as people. It would be good, I think. The movie's continuing. Georgia is just enjoying life. She happens to be out on a snowboarding ski hill lane when Mr. Kragen is also there. And so she ends up showing him up by not really knowing what to do. And she ends up snowboarding down, and he's like feeling like it's a challenge. And she's just like, I'm out of control. And he's like, I've got to beat you at skiing down this hill, which is a weird thing to be competitive about when you weren't even on the same hill in the first place. Anyway, he gets buffooned, and it's not good for him. He ends up like crashing on a table, and of course his response is, I'm gonna sue you for so much money, you're gonna be in court, because he's American, and that's what you do when things don't happen that you like and you're rich enough, you sue people. So That's not good either. But Georgia's just enjoying life. So maybe the theme really is about just enjoying life. But we're going on, and I have a note here that says maybe the theme is if good, honest, working class people could say whatever they wanted, then maybe the world would be better. But I don't really see how I got that from the rest of the notes that I wrote. I just thought that maybe you could consider that. Maybe that's the theme. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Let me know. We're moving on, and Georgia is talking to the redheaded lady, and she's like, oh, look, I know his whole story. You're holding out hope that Mr. Cragen, because the redhead lady is like there with Mr. Cragen, he's gonna leave his wife and like go with you, and you know them. They're not evil. They're just greedy. And, like, she's talking about the rich people in that way, and it's like, well, that's interesting on account of, greed is one of the 7 deadly sins. So if greed isn't evil, I wonder what it is. And somewhere also in here, Georgia ends up meeting, surprise, the senator. So one of the people that Mr. Cragen is trying to, like, purchase, if you will, purchase the politician, which is really awful, is the senator from Georgia's hometown. The senator who skipped out on church. Like, it's a movie, so obviously they show up at the same place, right? She talks to him and kind of like is like, oh, isn't it interesting that you couldn't make it to our meeting on last Sunday because you were out with Mr. Cragen doing whatever, or you were at some other thing where you were getting wined and dined instead of, being in the community. So the senator is ostensibly converted, like, oh man, yeah, actually, no, that's right, I should try to change. But of course, that could just be political speech. But he's at least gone from, like, neutral evil to, like, neutral, maybe even neutral good. And so she's got converted the senator. She has redhead friend who's now kind of, like, on her side instead of Cragen's side. She's not even trying to do this. She's just trying to, like, tell people how it is. She's not, like, directly against Cragen. Of course, she knows who Cragen is because he was her former boss. She always gets a table from Chef Didier, which is great. Georgia is going down to dinner. Chef Didier's like, here's your table. And the senator's like, oh, why don't you join us? And she's like, oh, well, why don't you join me? So everyone joins her except for Mr. Cragen, the villain. And he's sitting over there stewing. It's real bad. He's looking awful. And then he comes back over, and I think he sits in between, like, a congressman and his wife or something to join the table. It's, like, a really uncomfortable scene. I would skip that portion if I had, like, the 30-second fast forward while I'm watching a movie, but most of the time the movie's on the TV, so, you can't do that. Cragen's talking about how, like, oh, everybody, I've planned a thing for you all tomorrow. We're gonna go watch Glass Dry or something. And so they're all like, oh, okay. And Georgia's like, oh, I'm gonna go base jumping. And everyone's like, wow, that sounds fun. We should go with Georgia. And, the villain Cragen says, oh, I've been base jumping more. I'm better than you. I'm awesome. I'm amazing. So he says, I'll go too. And Georgia goes, and she jumps, and she, like, flies down like a flying squirrel, and it's majestic and whatnot. And everyone's like, wow, Georgia's so inspiring and loving life. Like, she's really living in the now. And Cragen pulls a classic maneuver where he says, oh no, I know too much about equipment. My equipment is bad, and there's an equipment failure, whatever. He's giving excuses. Listen, we've all been there. Now, not that, like, I'm on his side, but we've all been in a moment where we're like, we signed up to do a thing, and now we kind of don't want to. And especially when it comes to heights, we've all been there. We don't need to jump off of any dams. We don't need to go bungee jumping. It's all just, like, terrifying. But you don't have to pretend like you know enough. You can just say, no, I was scared. I'm out. I quit. But, of course, being the villain and trying to show off, he can't do that. So there he sits, defeated again by Georgia without even knowing it. Somewhere in here, he's getting sick and tired of being defeated by Georgia without her even trying. And so he, like, hires one of the neutral characters, one of the housekeepers, and is like, hey, find out whatever you can about Georgia. And so she does that, and she helps him. And it's bad, because now she's discovered that Georgia was just an employee for Mr. Cragen, not some rich fancy person that Mr. Cragen said, oh, she's obviously some rich fancy person, maybe even a spy or from the tax agencies or something, because it's apparently very illegal to be at the same hotel and paying for the hotel for senators and congressmen when you are a business person trying to get them to sign different legislation into law. Whatever. all that aside, he does that. He's awful. He's evil. I think that doesn't really play into the theme other than to just say like, oh yeah, his actions are bad. You shouldn't be the way that he lives. In a different part of the movie, like later in the evening, Georgia's like, oh, I'm just gonna go for a stroll, or she's walking and talking or whatever with Chef Didi. And later on, the rest of the crew, the group that, the redhead lady, the senator that have been converted, they're like, oh, Georgia. And I think at some point along the line, the congressman also gets converted and is like, oh, we love Georgia more than Kragen now. But it doesn't explain how that happens, other than she's better at base jumping and having fun than Kragen. So have fun, maybe. Maybe having fun is the theme. Anyway, they invite her to go gambling, and she's like, oh, I suppose. And so she comes in and she starts betting some money, and she bets on the same number multiple times in a row. And the converted senator says, oh, Georgia, isn't that a bit dangerous? And Georgia says, I guess that's why they call it gambling and not crocheting. Which was great, and as a casual crocheter, I felt seen, so maybe that's why I keep coming back to the movie year after year. It's really good. And what's also good is she ended up earning, I think, $100,000 or something like that, which, if my math is correct, means that she earned like $65,000 more than she did at the beginning of than she even had at the beginning of the movie. Like, she pulled out, I think, $35,000 from her savings and left with $100,000 that night, which, like, crazy good, except for she's still dying in the next, 2 weeks or something now, week and a half. So she's, enjoying life, but also, questioning, what is happening? Why am I getting all this good stuff after, I'm told I'm gonna be dead? So, conflicting emotions, ups and downs, but she's still mostly enjoying life. There's a moment where Georgia, confronts the converted senator, and they're just, chatting back and forth, and the converted senator's like, ooh, having important political supporters like Kragen is really important for political realities. And Georgia's like, I'm a little too busy with realities. And I felt that a lot of oh, what's all this fluff that's going on when, life is actually happening. So that's all going on. Maybe that again hits home at the oh, you actually have to live in the now and not just be busy schmoozing or something. Maybe that's the theme. Don't schmooze. While all that's happening, don't forget, Sean has realized that Georgia has quit and has, I think, attacked a doctor to be like, where'd you send Georgia? What happened? And the doctor is like, I'm sorry, I told her she's gonna die, so she left. So Sean is trying to find out where Georgia is. He's found it, and now he's trying to get to her. And he's coming up the mountain to try to find her. It's nearing New Year's Day, and as they're going up the mountain has an avalanche. Oh no! And so he's got to figure out his way past that. And I think he's okay, I guess I'll walk over it. So that's what he's starting to do. And oh no! The villain Kragen has discovered that Georgia worked for him at one of his department stores. So that's not good. And oh no! Chef Didi knows. Chef Didi heard. So while the neutral housekeeper lady was investigating Georgia, she discovered Georgia had only a couple weeks left to live, a week left to live. So she had written out a note and was like, hey, if you find me dead, that's why. Here's what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And the housekeeping lady was like, oh, I'm going to give Kragen back his money and tell him what he wanted to know, kind of inadvertently, and just be like, oh, I can't spy for you. This is evil what you've done. But Kragen knows now. And now Chef Didi knows that she's going to be dead. So he's like, oh, this is so sad. And she's like, it is, but let's just focus on the happier parts of we get to enjoy what we're doing right now. So again, maybe the theme is enjoy what's going on. So everybody knows the action is rising. The senators, the congressmen, the redhead lady don't know yet. The action is rising. It's coming to a boil even. And Kragen gets up and he says, let me give you a speech about how I know things, and it's really awesome how smart I am. And Georgia here is a liar. She made us think. She came in here and was acting all confident and smart and awesome, and made us think that she was someone important, but really she's just a salesperson. And it was really not cool. Everybody was like, Kragen, what the heck? Because Georgia's yeah, I mean, I've just kind of been telling you exactly what I see and how I feel. I'm not going to go back on that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to deceive you all. And everybody's like, wow, Kragan, you really ruined this night for us. So Kragan kind of like burns his bridges. He's already lost Redhead Lady because she's like, oh, I can't hang out with him anymore, which is kind of awkward because he presumably paid for her like plane tickets away from here. But it's fine though. I'm sure she lives and is fine and everything's great with her. The senator is like, wow, not cool, Kragan. And the congressman, it also says not cool. And the congressman's wife is like giving him a weird look, like a glare, like. So that all is great. Kragan, you know, I mean, he's lost. But the problem is he lost at a thing that wasn't even a competition. Like he was pretending it was. So maybe the competition is, it's important to know what's in reality and not just, you know, in political realities. And during that moment, I think the congressman and the wife have like a really good line, but you'd have to watch the movie to find out what it is. I just remember that it was great. The movie's drawing to a close, and then like one of the ladies that Georgia has been like talking with this whole time is looking up at the ceiling and is like, oh, those ceilings, they're just so beautiful. So maybe the message really is, the theme is to enjoy life as it is. And maybe that's it. And yeah. That's not the end of the movie, of course. Georgia gets news that she's not actually dying. So that's good. Yay! And then Sean shows up. And that's good. Yay! And then, oh, well, I think everybody ends up on the side of a building because Kragan's now sad or something, and they're all talking. And I'll just leave you on this cliffhanger of that. So the end of the movie has a trope that I've decided is my favorite trope for comedy movies, where they put in little title cards about like, where do people go after they're done with this movie? What happened? And like the first time I saw that, I was like, wow, that's so inspiring. I want to figure out what's going on, because like Georgia gets to go and start her own restaurant, and it's great. I didn't realize that it was all like comedy drama sort of thing, and I think my takeaway from multiple movies is it's better to not know what the premise of the movie is and be surprised in the middle of it.